Thanks for listening to Mike Douglas, Michigan's retirement coach.
All right, so we're going to talk about some emotional perspective today. The egos,
But I thought we're not supposed to have emotions about our finances, Heather.
Right. You know, after working for
robot.
40 years and saving, doing everything and sacrificing and saving, just have no emotions, no connection at all to that life savings.
Yeah, just let it ride.
Right. That's totally normal. It's a completely normal expectation for any of us to have of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, we jest. Actually, before we came on the air, you were talking about a scary moment with your kids at the gym this week where your eldest son had a certain circumstance where he was doing squats on the squat machine and he didn't have a spotter and the bar fell on him.
He was squatting in the squat rack, right? So it's a free weight, but it's in the squat rack.
Right.
And he's 15 and he's learning how to do it. And he knows he's supposed to have a spotter, but he decided to push for a heavier weight. And so if he's doing his warm-ups, we don't spot him because it's lightweight. Mm-hmm. He decided to jump on with heavy weight without a spotter and had his first fall, and the bar landed on his hand and he felt like he was going to pass out and was going to throw up because of all the pain and all that. And he was concerned that I was going to be mad at him. But the reality is, I said, it's good that you did it with a lighter weight in the squat rack. I said, everybody who lifts weights goes through a pain like this.
Yeah.
You drop the bar on yourself when you're benching, or you fall in the squat rack. And anytime you push to failure, which is a great lesson for life, when you push to failure is acceptable as long as you do it within safe parameters. There's a reason I spot him is because I've done it before and I can help him when the weight becomes too heavy. And he did it without the spotter and he learned the lesson. And I feel like that's going to apply a lot to what we're talking about today. But having someone there who knows how to deal with this, who's done it before, and who can support you when the weight gets really heavy, that's what we do as a spotter. And actually, that's what we do from a financial planning standpoint, is we help people when the weight gets too heavy.
Yeah. Because if you think about the weight that is on the shoulders of a person when they get to retirement, it's such a different load than when you started in your 20s and 30s. Now you've got this big, heavy load that is your nest egg, and knowing what to do with it so that you don't stumble in your retirement is such a burden that so many savers are bearing, thinking that they have to do it by themselves, and you do not have to face this challenge alone. Mike is here to spot you, to check you, to walk alongside you in this process. So don't stress out by yourself. Don't sit there and panic alone. Give us a call. Let's begin the conversation about helping you have less stress and more confidence. It's 616-512-2127. Thinking about what your son is going through, chuckling to myself. He's 15 years old. Remember back when we were 15, how quick you could just bounce back.
He's Superman, apparently.
The bounce back factor is just like so envious I am of how quickly, by the end of the day, he's like back out at batting practice or playing hoops, whatever he's doing. Like literally the resilience that kids have is...
And back to you can't tell them anything.
Right, of
that's
course.
the thing.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was this morning. I've learned a lot since then. I've grown. Yeah, I'm fine.
Get on board, Dad. As we go through life, of course, experiencing things like those moments in the gym or just generally, just a stumble in public. There are few things as embarrassing, as humbling, as a full-on faceplant right in the middle of a shopping center or on the sidewalk. This is comedian Ryan Hamilton talking about his, speaking of, is there a more public place than the streets of New York, where apparently he took quite the spill.
I fell down. It was significant. I'm calling it an adult fall. I fell on the streets of New York City. People were around. I mean, there was no denying it. Everyone asked, are you okay? Yes. But let me make this point. Has anyone ever answered no to are you okay in the history of falling down? My body was screaming I was not okay. And I still said, I'm fine. I want to die alone right here. Put the orange cones around me and leave me alone.
So I think Ryan Hamilton is in his 40s now.
Yeah.
And again, to my point that I was saying before, when we're young, a fall, it's mostly just a bruise to the ego for the most part. As we get older, a major fall, it can have big consequences on our physical health, and all the parallels we're drawing today of the financial perspective of that as well, Mike, because the same can be said for our money. If you think about in your 20s or 30s, if there's a market dip or you make your own financial mistake accidentally, there is time to recover. You bounce back easier. When you are in your 50s or your 60s, a financial misstep can have a much bigger consequence. So what are some of those missteps that you want to point out to people in your 50s and 60s, point out in a way that so we can avoid making them?
Yeah, this reminds me of, I have some clients, Steve and Rachel, and both in their early 60s. And when we first met, on the surface, everything looked fine, good income, solid retirement accounts, a nice home. And every time we would talk through their situation and look about deeper planning, Steve would always kind of smile and say, oh, we're fine, we're doing good. But then when we start pulling back the layers, because again, just like we talked about the weightlifting, right? Like, I know the things Gavin doesn't know. I know what it means to fall in the rack. I know how this goes. So I can help him think about things he doesn't know to think about. In the same way with Steve and Rachel, I started asking some deeper questions about life, about what they want things to look like, about what would happen if their income got cut by $2,000 a month, all these questions. And there were some quiet warning signs that started showing up. They were carrying more debt than they realized because they'd kind of compartmentalized. I got this thing over here. I got this thing over there. Almost all of their money was tied to the stock market, which again, in a growing model is acceptable. When you're accumulating and you're 40 and 45 and 50, even and you're saving towards retirement, it's okay.
Yeah.
But they had no real healthcare plan. And as they got towards retirement, you need some more liquid money that's not tied to the stock market, no tax strategy. And they were helping adult children financially every single month.
Oh, really?
So that's an expensive thing. And no long-term care health strategy, which more and more is becoming a bigger issue.
Yeah.
Then the market went through a rough patch. And it wasn't a long one. It was about a 6-month stretch of the market back in 2022. And suddenly, what would have been a temporary dip in their 40s became something much more serious now in their early 60s. And Steve finally admitted to me saying, I think I kept saying we're fine because I was afraid to find out that we weren't. And that's an interesting place to be, where I'd rather just, put my head in the sand like an ostrich and not pay attention. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. Financial stress in your 50s and 60s often stays hidden until something forces it out into the open. And the quiet signs are usually things like if people want to avoid conversations about money. Again, these are quiet signs to understand that there's some underlying issues that aren't being dealt with. They avoid conversations about money. They're carrying debt into retirement. There's no written income plan. And when I talk about, most people have a financial plan, and somebody may even run you a chart about how much money you should have left in your portfolio at age 80, 85, 90, whatever. But what is your written income plan that tells you exactly how you're getting income every single month the rest of your life? If the market makes a bunch of money or if the market loses a bunch of money, where is it line by line that you get a paycheck? I wouldn't start a job at a new employer if they didn't give me a contract to sign saying exactly what they promised me in my package.
Right.
Right. Could you imagine going to a new job and they say, as long as our sales hit 4 to 8% growth per year, you should be fine to get a paycheck. Nobody's going to do that. That's crazy.
Right.
Well, as long as our profits come in at a certain growth rate, we'll cover your health care. As long as this, then we'll be okay. Nobody would work at a place like that unless you're a true entrepreneur and you're starting a company and that's how you live your life.
Yeah.
But for most of the world, they're going to say, there's no way I'm working somewhere where as long as these things go okay, I should be able to get income. But yet that's what people do with their retirement. No written income plan, just as long as this, then I should be okay.
Isn't it amazing how much we show up for our employers and everybody else in our life? And this is such a perfect example of we won't show up for ourselves. It's like you would never accept that from somebody that you worked for, but you are fine with accepting it of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's no way. But yet people come into retirement with no written income plan.
Yeah.
Another one, being overly dependent on the market. The market is a great tool to be opportunistic, to grow, but you need some diversification out of the market. You need something that will provide stability when the market's bad. Another hidden thing is people who are constantly worrying, even if the account balance looks okay. So, because sometimes I'm fine really means I'm hoping nothing goes wrong.
Right.
So we meet with people all the time, and this is what we hear. I'm fine. Things look good. I can't complain about the portfolio because the market's been going up and everything's going well. And yet, as we peel back the onion, as we start digging deeper into the layers, how would your life be affected if the market dropped 20% and didn't recover for 3 years? How would your life be affected if the market was flat for 2 or 3 years? How would your portfolio be affected if inflation went back up to 4% or 5%? So we start asking these questions, not from the perspective of any like sales tactic or some seminar presentation. It's from the perspective of directly related to you and your family. How is your income and lifestyle affected? Because it doesn't matter what matters for the financial institution. It doesn't matter about the stock market. What matters is you have a life you plan on living, and yet the market pulls back, and all of a sudden I can't go on vacation like I planned on. I have to be nervous about taking out $10,000 because what does it do to my portfolio 15 years from now? There are answers to these questions that can be had. You just have to be willing to have the conversation. And then the big one that's looming out there is long-term care. What do I do if one of us needs long-term care? How are we going to pay for this thing? Do I have to foot the bill? Is it really $15,000 a month like I keep hearing or reading articles about? What is the cost here in West Michigan to do long-term care? And there's a lot of concerns, a lot of ways of handling it, but more and more we see the best way to get rid of fear is not to ignore the problem. It's to deal with the problem and have a plan in place. That way people can say, oh, well, if this comes up, I know we do this, and we'll be okay. If we need long-term care, I know we have it covered because we've done some estate planning, some insurance planning, and some income planning. We know we're okay. I know that if the market corrects, we're going to be okay because I'm getting my income from Social Security, from a pension, maybe an annuity, or from dividends, or things that are pretty resilient to a recession or a pullback. So when you start looking at a retirement plan, it's about just being able to check the list off. I have acknowledged the potential problem, and I've dealt with the potential problem before it is a problem. Because it's not a matter of if the market's going to correct. It will. On average, 3 out of 10 years in a market every decade will be negative in the market. So why do we keep acting like it's never going to happen or like it's a shock when it does? Those of us who prepare for those moments are opportunistic, and when the market pulls back, we make money, we take advantage of it, and we protect. Those who are just riding on the coattails or seeing what happens, that's not a good place to be in retirement. You can have a retirement plan that is built for you, that's built for your family. And so when the storms come up, you just batten down the hatches the way we planned on the whole way through. That's a good retirement plan, and that's how you should be living your life. If you're out there and you're saying, gosh, I'm this person, I've been afraid to deal with it, I don't want to talk about long-term care, but I need to talk about long-term care. You have these concerns. You just have to know that there is a conversation that resolves those fears. Give us a call, 616-512-2127. We have people standing by right now. If you call in, they will get you on my calendar. You and I will talk on the phone. We will figure out what life looks like and see what you need to do to make it work better. We have retirement roadmaps that carry people through from start to finish to make sure that you do this thing the right way. You retire right, you retire once. Give us a call, 616-512-2127, or you can reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
Continuing the conversation with how we're feeling, how we're thinking, Mike, because when it comes to market downturns, we have been through them. At least people that we are working with close to or in retirement have definitely experienced downturns over the past 26 years. We all want to think that we will do better the next time, the next market downturn. We will react better. We will handle it better. However, Morgan Housel, he's an author. He wrote the book, The Psychology of Money. He says that's probably not going to happen. This is Morgan Housel.
You cannot read a paper or look at a spreadsheet and change the amount of dopamine and cortisol in your brain. You can't do it. I think the best that we can do as individuals is look at our own personal financial past and realize that that is probably how we're going to roughly behave in the future. If you are the kind of person who panicked out of your stocks in 2008 or March of 2020, you are probably going to do it the next time. A lot of the evidence shows that we will not learn from these mistakes because it's easy to underestimate how quickly the emotions will come rushing back during the next surprise, during the next crisis.
It is easy to underestimate how our emotions will take over in those moments. And the closer you are to retirement, the more stressful it becomes. And basically, he's saying we can't logic our way into better behavior when things get scary with our money, with the market. I mean, that's something we have zero control over, Mike. So how should we think about our risk tolerance as we get closer to retirement?
Well, if you think of it as this sliding scale, right? And on one side, you have age. All right. So that's a horizontal scale. You have age on the bottom, you have risk on the top, right? But it's 0 to 100 and it's 100 to 0. So when I'm age 10, I have an extremely high risk tolerance. Why? Because my money is going to have time to work. When I'm 20, 30, 40, I'm still very aggressive in the portfolio. But by the time I get to 50, 55, 60, I start de-risking my portfolio typically a little bit, not all the way out, but in preparation for retirement. That way the market doesn't correct me down 40% of my money right before I retire. So that's a typical thing we want to make sure we're understanding. It doesn't mean exit the market. It means recalibrate. It means adjust to the new speed limit in your risk life, right? We have cruise control on our car. And if I set it to 80 and drive everywhere, I'm going to get a lot of tickets.
You're also going to be coming into every place you go to.
Real hot, Yeah. But instead, I adjust the cruise control to the speed limit of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So on the highway, the Pennsylvania Turnpike, when I'm driving home to Delaware to see my family, you see these things, but we adjust speed all the time. It's based on the risk of the situation. And yet when we're in our portfolio, we're told, hey, you still got to stay engaged in the market. You got to do that. And I agree. You just adjust the risk based on your timeline. I had a client, Robert, who came in, and in his late 50s, he always described himself as aggressive with investing because that's what he had always been. And he had lived through a lot of downturns, and he'd always talk about the market comes back. I just got to ride it out and deal with it. And I don't disagree to a certain extent. However, when the market went through a steep drop, he came back in and said, I didn't realize how differently I'd feel now that I'm living off the money, because his late 50s, early 60s, as he started to turn from investor to spender and liver, right? And he's trying to enjoy this money and retire with dignity. He's realizing that, gosh, the downturns hit my stomach a little differently than they used to. Yeah. And he used to be one when the market would downturn, he would salivate. He'd be excited. It was like, oh, here we go. Now I can make more money. I can buy on the dip, dollar cost average in, all the right answers. And he knows the right answers. And yet now in retirement, it hits differently because your lifestyle is attached to it, right? When you're working, it's just some future money that's attached to it. And you have a really good long-term perspective at 40 or 50 about your investments. However, once you get to the late 50s, early 60s, or even older, all right, well, now it's not future money that I'm attaching to it. It's current income I'm attaching to it. Current comfort and lifestyle I'm attaching to it. So that's when Robert and a lot of people realize that risk tolerance isn't just about how much volatility you can understand logically. It's about how much uncertainty you can emotionally handle when your future starts feeling real. Again, risk is acceptable when it's comfortable, when we understand it, when we're in line with who we are. Our family, our finances, our feelings are congruent, then we're in a good place and we sleep better. The problem comes when we don't realize it, but the goalposts have moved. I've gotten older, and when I get older, there's certain things I'm just not comfortable with anymore. But you don't realize it until you experience it, right? You don't realize you don't like roller coasters anymore until you ride one. And then you go, that is not my life anymore, right? But at 18, I loved them. At 25, I loved them. But now I don't want to be spun in a circle as fast as it can go just to do it. That's crazy.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
But we would stand in line for hours
and pay
to do it at a younger age. A lot of money. And we would sit and wait. Why? Just for the chance to be spun to the point of being sick. That's crazy.
Yep.
But yet life changes, we change, and our portfolio needs to adjust and change. Don't let emotions be ripped out of the process, but don't let them override the process. Your emotions are your life. That's who you are. Use those as an indicator of where you are, and then build a plan that adjusts accordingly. It's okay to de-risk when the market's bad. It's okay to risk up when the market's good, but don't let emotions run the show, but don't pretend like they're not part of it.
Right?
They're along for the ride.
Yeah.
But take them captive, use them as a tool and fuel, and go from there. You can build a retirement plan that's built for you, that is at your right phase of life, right stage of risk and comfort. We can help you work through that, understanding who you are and where your portfolio needs to be. Give us a call, 616-512-2127, and we will build the retirement roadmap that's right for you.
Mike and his team, they're here to help guide you through this process, because at the end of the day, the goal is that you're going to retire one time, but Mike and his team, they're retiring every single day or helping folks do that. So they got a lot of wealth of knowledge in their pocket that they're ready to share with you. MichigansRetirementCoach.com is our website where you can go to start the conversation with Mike and his team, or click on the links we got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit MichigansRetirementCoach.com.
Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.